Om Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama Gopika Jeevana Smaranam Govinda Govinda Sadgurunath Maharaj Ki Jai. Shuklam Bharadaram Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasanna Vadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantahe. Namo Namah Sadgurubhya Sadgurubhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Namah Sadgurubhya Sadgurubhyo Namo Namaha. Satchidananda Rupaya Vishwotpatyadi Hetave Tapatraya Vinashaya Shri Krishnaya Vayam Numaha. Yam Pravrajantam Anupetam Apeta Krityam Dvaipayano Viraha Katara Ajuhavam Putreti Tanmayataya Taravobhineduhu Tam Sarva Bhuta Hridayam Munimanatosmi Yaswanubhavam Akila Shruti Saramekam Adhyatma Deepam Atititi Shatam Tamondham Samsarinam Karunayaha Purana Guhyam Tam Vyasa Sunum Upayami Gurum Muninam Yogindraya Namastasmai Shukaya Brahmarupine Samsara Sarpadashtam Yo Vishnuratam Amu Muchate Kalavyala Mukagrasam Trasa Nirnasha Hetave Srimad Bhagavatam Shastram Kalokirena Bhashitam एतस्मादपरं किञ्चित् मनःशुद्ध्यै न विद्यते जन्मान्तरे भवेत् पुण्यं तदा भागवतं लभेत् ज्ञानवैराग्यसम्पूर्णान् हरिभक्तिपरायणान् पूर्वाचार्यादहं वन्दे सम्प्रदायप्रवर्तकान् भगवन्नाम साम्राज्य लक्ष्मी सर्वस्वविग्रहं श्रीमद्बोधेन्द्रयोगीन्द्र देशिकेन्द्रम् उपास्महे कलिकालोचितं धर्मं नाम संकीर्तनात्मकं निर्णेतुमवतीर्णं तं प्रेमिकं सद्गुरुं भजे हरे रामेति कृष्णेति नाम संकीर्तनं सदा लोकक्षेमाय कुर्वन्तं प्रेमिकं सद्गुरुं भजे जन्माद्यस्य यतोऽन्वयात् इतरतश्चार्तेषभिज्ञस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्महृदाय आदिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरयः तेजो वारि मृदां यथा विनिमयो यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि धर्मः प्रोज्झितकैतवोऽत्र परमो निर्मत्सराणां सतां वेद्यं वास्तवमत्र वस्तु शिवदं तापत्रयोन्मूलनं श्रीमद्भागवते महामुनिकृते किं वा परैरीश्वरः सद्यो हृद्यवरुध्यतेऽत्र कृतिभिः शुश्रूषिभिस्तत्क्षणात् निगमकल्पतरोर्गलितं फलं शुकमुखात् अमृतद्रवसंयुतं पिबत भागवतं रसमालयम् मुहुरहो रसिका भुवि भावुकाः नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् श्रीमद्भागवताख्योऽयं प्रत्यक्षः कृष्ण एव हि स्वीकृतोऽसि मया नाथ मुक्त्यर्थं भवसागरे मनोरथो मदीयोऽयं सफलः सर्वथा त्वया निर्विघ्नेनैव कर्तव्यो दासोऽहं तव केशव श्रीहरे नमः श्रीहरे नमः श्रीहरे नमः गोपिका जीवन स्मरणं गोविन्दा गोविन्दा सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय. Welcome everyone. Thanks for adjusting the thing. I think we came back only at 3:30 yesterday afternoon. I'm sure everybody whoever came was tired after that. Okay, so we'll just do a quick finish the meaning of 19 and then we'll finish that today. We won't do a review. So last class we started seeing where Prithu was doing the Ashwamedha Yajna, right? He had completed 99 Ashwamedha Yajnas and then he was doing the 100th Ashwamedha Yajna. And the same thing is going to happen later in Bali Chakravarti, right? So anytime somebody does the 100, they become the next Indra. So Indra becomes a little shaky in this time. So what he does is we saw how he disguises first time. He disguises himself as a sannyasi wearing the appropriate garments, right? So you can recognize somebody is a sannyasi in multiple ways because that's what Indra is going to do. The first time he dresses himself like a sannyasi with all the robes and all of that stuff. And then he comes and then he steals the horse away. So at that time, Atri Maharshi, who is there, he says, he tells Prithu's son, saying that Indra is stealing the horse, go catch him. I can see him flying. So Prithu's son goes in, and then he goes catches that person, but then he sees that this person is all dressed up like a sannyasi. So he says this cannot be that person, and then he comes back. Then Atri again remains saying, no, that is Indra. He's dressing himself like a sannyasi, so don't fall for that. And then he goes again chasing him. At the time when Indra finds that this person is chasing him, he then leaves the horse and he runs away. He disappears from there. So then Prithu's son gets back the horse. So he's called as Vijitaswa. So the one who has conquered the horse. So with that, then the sacrifice is continuing. Now, again, Indra is feeling that, like, how can I let this happen? So what he does is, because he's the controller of rain, so what he does is he puts dark clouds everywhere around the area. In Rishabha Yogeshwara, when we see later, he's going to do the exact opposite. He's going to hold off the rain. So here he's going to put dark clouds so the entire place gets very dark. And then he comes and steals the horse for a second time. And this time, what he does is he's changing his appearance. So he's not dressing up on the dress sense, but the sannyasis also carry a staff. They carry a thing in their hand, right? The stick. So he's in that. So that is also a representation that somebody is a sannyasi. So he's kind of changing his vesham, he's changing his appearance. And then the same thing is going to happen. So the Prithu's son goes again. He goes, catches this person. He says, no, this person is another sannyasi. So I'm not going to do. He comes back. Atri says again, no, it is Indra. So the same thing repeats second time. So this time Prithu's son gets very angry about it, and then he then goes and he's about to, kill Indra. At the time, Indra finally disappears, and then he leaves the horse. So he then brings back the horse for a second time. So when this happens two times like this, the people who are doing the yajna are also very upset. So they tell Prithu, Prithu is upset that this whole process is getting disturbed unnecessarily, right? So Prithu is like, I really have to take care of this, and I have to do something about it. So all the sages who are there saying, you know what, don't worry. When we do these yajnas, we actually utter mantras, which means the people are supposed to show. Like, in even Daksha Charitram, Narayana himself showed up in person when they did it the right way. So he says, don't worry, we know exactly how to bring Indra to you. You don't have to go looking after Indra. We'll do the right mantrams, and then Indra himself will have to appear. And when Indra himself appears, then we can take care of Indra at that time. So with that, they start doing that appropriate mantram to bring Indra in person to make him appear. So at that time, to prevent that from happening, Brahma comes to that scene there, and Brahma comes and then reminds Prithu. He pauses that stuff. And then he says, he kind of reminds Prithu of who he is, like we were talking last time, right? Sometimes Prithu doesn't know his own potency. So Brahma comes and reminds Prithu that, look, Indra is a leader of all the demigods. He's an extension of Bhagavan. So you cannot think of Indra as somebody who is your enemy. He says, number two, Prithu, you yourself have Bhagavan's energy in you, because remember that it said it's not not the quite incarnation, but it's more like Bhagavan's energy is passed on to Prithu. So you are also no different than Indra. So you both are extensions of Bhagavan. You both cannot be fighting with each other. And then you are not going to accomplish anything by killing Indra at this point, right? He says, Prithu, you are already blessed. You have completed 99 Ashwamedha Yajnas. You don't need to do 100th Ashwamedha Yajna. He says, because you're already on your path of liberation, you already have all the knowledge. So stop performing this yajnas. And then he tells Brahma, recommends to Prithu that he actually completely stop doing the stop at 99 and then actually not go to 100, because he says, number one, it doesn't make any sense. He says, number two, Indra is setting the stage for how anybody, even a demigod, is going to start performing bad deeds when their position is actually disturbed. So Indra has already tried to steal it two times. You don't know to what extent Indra is going to go to save his position. So he then recommends that you don't do that, right? And then he says, you're already on your path. And then Brahma then tells him to stop doing the 100th yajna, which is where this comes to an end. And then the next one, Mahavishnu is going to show up and then also give the same message. Okay, so we'll continue with this. Let me see who I had. Narayani, you can be a student, and Srividya Ramesh can be a student. Okay, so 28. Vayam marut vantam ihartha nashanam, comma, hwayamahe. So it's like a ha and a ich and a va. Hwayamahe twach chavasa hatat visham ayata yamo pahavair. So I'm just breaking at the ra, till then it's continuous. Ayata yamo pahavair anantaram, comma, प्रसह्य राजन् जुहुवाम ते हितम् वयं
ராஜேஷ்
मरुत्
ஜுஹுவாமாவா ஜுஹவாமான்னு இருக்கு.
जुहवाम ते sorry वयं मरुत्वन्तमिहार्तनाशनं ह्वायामहे त्वच्छवसाः तत्विषम् अयातयामोपहवैरनन्तरं प्रसह्य राजन् जुहवाम ते हितम्
वयं मरुत्वन्तमिहार्तनाशनं वयामहे त्वच्छ्रवसाः तत्विषम् अयातयामोपहवैरनन्तरं प्रहस्य राजञ्जुहवाम ते हितम्.
First line after the comma ह्वायामहे HVA ह्वा ह्वायामहे
ஹ்வா அனஹ்வான்னு இருக்கு. ஓகே, ஹ்வா யாமஹே. ஓகே,
ह्वा yeah it's a her and va there HVA
கரெக்ட் பண்ணி.
वयं मरुत्वन्तमिहार्तनाशनं ह्वयामहे त्वच्छ्रवसा हतत्विषम् अयातयामोपहवैरनन्तरं प्रसह्य राजञ्जुहवाम ते हितम्.
see the word again. I'm just typing it here. Vayamahe. I just typed it in English.
Okay.
Vayamahe.
ராஜேஷ் தமிழ்ல இந்த வாக்கு லாங்கா இல்ல, யா
இல்ல
மட்டும்
அது
தான்
வந்து அந்த
லாங்கா இருக்கு.
இஹ்தா is a short the half
கரெக்ட்.
there.
வா நீங்க வா சொல்ற மாதிரி இருக்கு.
வா HVA
இல்ல
vayamahe.
வா லாங் ஒன்னா ஷார்ட் ஒன்னா?
Oh short yeah vayamahe not vayamahe yeah okay
ஹொயாமஹே.
vayamahe yeah is the long one yeah correct
okay yeah correct சொன்னேனா நானு?
you can say
ஹோயாம தானே? ஹோயாம.
yeah vayamahe yeah
okay.
इत्यामन्त्र्य क्रतुपतिं कॉमा विदुरास्यर्त्विजो रुषा सृग्घस्तान् जुह्वतो भेत्य that's one word जुह्वतो भेत्य कॉमा स्वयंभूः प्रत्यषेदत इत्यामन्त्र्य क्रतुपतिं विदुरास्यर्त्विजो रुषा सृग्घस्तान् जुह्वतो भेत्य स्वयंभूः प्रत्यषेधत
The second line ஒரு தடவை திருப்பி சொல்றீங்களா ராஜேஷ்? நான் சரியா கேட்டுக்கல. சுக்கஸ்தான்
ஃபர்ஸ்ட் அது வந்து சுருக் இக் சுருக் கஸ்தான் இன் ஜுஹ்வதோ பேத்ய ஜுஹ்வதோ அபேத்ய but the s is there so that comes continuously.
Okay, சொல்றேன். இத்யாமந்த்ரிய க்ரதுபதிம் விதுராஸ்யத்விஜோருஷா ஸ்ருக்கஸ்தான் ஜுஹ்வதோப்யேத்ய ஸ்வயம்பூः பிரத்யஷேதத.
इत्यामन्त्र्य क्रतुपतिं विधुरास्यत्विजोरुषा सृग्घस्ताञ्जुह्वतोऽप्येत्य स्वयंभूः प्रत्यषेदत.
न वद्यो भवताम् इन्द्रो कॉमा यद्यज्ञो भगवत् तनुः यं जिघांसत यज्ञेन कॉमा यस्येष्टास्तनवस् सुराः न वद्यो भवतामिन्द्रो यद्यज्ञो भगवत्तनुः यं जिघांसत यज्ञेन यस्येष्टास्तनवस्सुराः
न वद्यो भवताम् इन्द्रो यद्यज्ञो भगवत्तनुः यं जिगांसत यज्ञेन यस्येष्टास्तनवः सुराः.
न वद्यो भवतामिन्द्रो यद्यज्ञो भगवत्तनुः यं जिगांसत यज्ञेन यस्येष्टास्तनवः
तदिदं पश्यत महत्. So you'll have a dha and another dha underneath it. So just put the it first, mahat, comma. Dharma vyatikaram dvijaha. Indrenanushtitam, one word. Indrenanushtitam rajnyaha, comma. Karmaitat vijigamsata. Tadidam pashyata mahat. Dharma vyatikaram dvijaha. Indrenanushtitam rajnyaha. कर्मैतत् विजिगांसता.
तदिदं पश्यत महत् धर्मव्यतिकरं द्विजाः इन्द्रेणानुष्ठितं राज्ञः कर्मैतद्विजिगांसता.
Yeah, and the karmaitat, the dvi that is there, you can just break it. Karmaitat vijigamsata.
Oh, कर्मैतद्विजिगांसता.
तदिदं पश्यत महत् धर्मव्यतिकरं द्विजाः इन्द्रेणानुष्ठितं राज्ञः कर्मैतद्विजिगांस्तथा
Prutu kirtef prutor bhuyat. So it's it and a tha there. After the it, put a comma. Bhuyat. Tarhe kona shata kratuhu. Alam te kratubhis swishtaihi. Visarga comma. Next, ir goes away. Yad bhavan moksha dharmavit. पृथुकीर्तेः पृतोर्भूयात् तर्हे को न शतक्रतुः अलं ते क्रतुभिः स्विष्टैः यद्भवान् मोक्षधर्मवित्.
ऋतुकीर्तेः पृतोर्भूयात् दर्ह्ये को न शतक्रतुः अलं ते क्रतुभिः स्विष्टैः यद्भवान् मोक्षधर्मवित्.
पृथुकीर्तेः पृतोर्भूयात् तर्ह्येको न शतक्रतुः अलं ते क्रतुभिः स्विष्टैः यद्भवान् मोक्षधर्मवित्.
He's saying the moksha, you are already on the path of liberation, you know how to get there already, so why are you wasting your time doing all these yajnas and causing other problems for Indra? Naivatmane Mahendraya, रोषमाहार्तुम् अर्हसि उभावपिः भद्रं ते उत्तम श्लोक विग्रहौ. नैवात्मने महेन्द्राय रोषमाहार्तुम् अर्हसि उभावपिः भद्रं ते उत्तम श्लोक विग्रहौ.
नैवात्मने महेन्द्राय रोषमाहर्तुम् अर्हसि उभावपि हि भद्रं ते उत्तमश्लोकविग्रहौ.
नैवात्मने महेन्द्राय रोषमाहर्तुमर्हसि उभावपि हि भद्रं ते उत्तमश्लोकविग्रहौ.
मास्मिन् महाराज कृतास्म चिन्तां निशामयास्मत् वच आदृतात्मा यध्यायतो दैव हतं नु कर्तुं मनोतिरुष्टं विशते तमोन्धम्. मास्मिन् महाराज कृतास्म चिन्तां निशामयास्मत् वच आदृतात्मा यध्यायतो दैव हतं नु कर्तुं मनोतिरुष्टं विशते तमोन्धम्.
मास्मिन् महाराज कृतास्म चिन्तां निशामयास्मद्वज आदृतात्मा यद्यायतो दैव हतं नु कर्तुं मनोतिरुष्टं विशते तमोन्धम्.
मास्मिन् महाराज कृतास्म चिन्तां निशामयास्म त्वच आधृतात्मा यतो दैव हतं नु कर्तुं मनोतिरुष्टं विशते तमोद्धम. Sorry.
Tamondham im and the last letter.
Okay, tamondam. Okay.
Kratur Viramatamesha, देवेषु दुरवग्रहः धर्म व्यतिकरो यत्र पाखण्डैरिन्द्र निर्मितैः. क्रतुर्विरमतामेष देवेषु दुरवग्रहः धर्म व्यतिकरो यत्र पाखण्डैरिन्द्र निर्मितैः.
क्रतुर्विरमतामेष देवेषु दुरवग्रहः धर्मव्यतिकरो यत्र पाखण्डैरिन्द्र निर्मितैः.
क्रतुर्विरमतामेष देवेषु दुरवग्रहः धर्मव्यतिकरो यत्र पाखण्डैरिन्द्र निर्मितैः.
एभिर् इन्द्रोपसंसृष्टैः पाखण्डैर् हारिभिर्जनं ह्रियमाणं विचक्ष्वैनं, यस्ते यज्ञ drugashvamut. If you want to break it, it's drugashvamut, or you can say it together, drugashvamut. Ebhir indropasamsrishtaihi pakhandairharibhirjanam ह्रियमाणं विचक्ष्वैनं यस्ते यज्ञ drugashvamut.
येभिरिन्द्रोपसंसृष्टैः पाखण्डैर्हारिभिर्जनं ह्रियमाणं विचक्ष्वैनं यस्ते यज्ञदृगश्वमुट्
येभिरिन्द्रोपसंसृष्टैः पाखण्डैर्हारिभिर्जनं ह्रियमाणं विचक्ष्वैनं यस्ते यज्ञदृगश्वमुट्.
So Brahma is saying that so until that point, nobody was cheating wearing the robe of a sannyasi. It was the first time that was happening. So Brahma is saying Indra is already, like nobody would expect that. So he's saying he's already done that. So if you continue to do it, what he'll come up with new ways. And if Indra comes up with new ways, then people are going to have new ideas of how to cheat people by wearing the robes of a sannyasi or behaving like a sannyasi. So he says, let's not give people ideas, because Indra is smart to come up with more ideas. He's saying, just let not be the president here. Bhavan paritratum ihavatirno, dharmam jananam samayanurupam venapacharat, breaking at the da there, venapacharat avalupta madhya, tad dehato vishnu kalasi vainya. Bhavan paritratum ihavatirno dharmam jananam samayanurupam venopacharat avalupta madhyam taddehato vishnu kalasi vainya.
वेनापदने
वेनापव वेनोपव राजेश.
Venapa, sorry, I said Venapa.
ओके भवान् परित्रातुम् इहावतीर्णो धर्मं जनानां समयानुरूपं वेनापचाराद् अवलुप्तमद्य तद्देहतो विष्णुकलासि वैन्य.
भवान् परित्रातुम् इहावतीर्णो धर्मं जनानां समयानुरूपं वेनापचारात् अवलुप्तमद्य तद्देहतो विष्णुकलासि वैन्य.
Sattvam vimrushyaasya bhavam prajapate, sankalpanam vishva srijam pipiprihi aindrim cha mayam upadharma mataram, prachanda pakhanda patam prabhojahi. Sattvam vimrushyaasya bhavam prajapate sankalpanam vishva srijam pipiprihi aindrim cha mayam upadharma mataram prachanda pakhanda patam prabhojahi.
सत्वं विमृश्यास्य भवं प्रजापते संकल्पनं विश्वसृजां पिपीप्रुहि ऐन्द्रीं च मायाम् उपधर्ममातरं प्रचण्डपाखण्डपतं प्रभोजहि.
सत्वं विमृश्यास्य भवं प्रजापते संकल्पनं विश्वसृजां पिपीप्रुहि ऐन्द्रीं च मायामुपधर्ममातरं प्रचण्डपाखण्डपथं प्रभोजहि.
Maitreyo vacha ittam sa loka guruna, samadishto vishampatihi tatha cha kritva vatsalyam, magho napi cha sandhade. Maitreyo vacha ittam sa loka guruna samadishto vishampatihi tatha cha kritva vatsalyam magho napi cha sandhade.
मैत्रेयोवाच इत्थं स लोकगुरुणा समादिष्टो विशाम्पतिः तथा च कृत्वा वात्सल्यं मघो नापि च ददे.
मैत्रेयोवाच इत्थं स लोकगुरुणा समादिष्टो विशाम्पतिः तथा च कृत्वा वात्सल्यं मघो नापि च सन्धते.
कृतापभृत स्नानाय Avabrita snanaya. Avabrita snanam is what you normally do when you finish, like when you do a saptaham. At the end, you do a avabrita snanam. You take a dip in some holy water to say, I'm done with the procedures. So because Prithu is done, he's no longer going to do this yajnam anymore. So he's saying it's the end of that, completion of that. So Kritavabhrita snanaya, Prithave bhuri karmane, Varan daduste varadaha, put a visarga there. Ye tad barhishi tarpitaha. In case your book says a B there, that is wrong, because mine had a B there. Ye tad barhishi tarpitaha. Kritavabhritasnanaya prithave bhuri karmane varan daduste varadaha ye tad barhishi tarpitaha.
कृतावभृतस्नानाय पृतवे भूरि कर्मणे वरान् ददुस्ते वरदाः ये तत्पर्हिषि तर्पिताः.
தத் பீன்னு இருக்கு அந்த இடத்துல
அதான் அந்த
பர்ன்
பி தப்பு, அந்த பர்து barhishi.
So தத் பர்ஹிஷி. Okay.
Yeah, and the word you remember because it's going to come later. The barhishi, prachina barhishat, one person is going to come, son of Priyavrata. So barhishi means yajnam. That's the name of the word.
कृतावभृतस्नानाय पृतवे भूरि कर्मणे वरां ददुस्ते वरदाः ये तद्बर्हिषि तर्पिताः.
Vipras satyashishastushtaha, shraddhaya labda dakshinaha ashisho yuyujuhu. So say that visarga, yuyujuhu kshattaha, put a visarga comma, remove that ra there, visarga comma, adi rajaya satkritaha. The ra becomes a there. Vipras satyashishastushtaha shraddhaya labda dakshinaha ashisho yuyujuhu kshattaha adi rajaya satkritaha.
विप्रा सत्याशिषस्तुष्टाः श्रद्धया लब्धदक्षिणाः आशिषो युयुजुः क्षक्तः आदिराजाय सत्कृताः.
विप्रा सत्याशिषस्तुष्टाः श्रद्धया लब्धदक्षिणाः आशिषो युयुजुः क्षतः आदिराजाय सत्कृताः.
The second line just before the comma, kshattaha, it under taha.
क्षतः. Okay.
Tvaya huta mahabaho, sarva eva samagataha pujita dana manabhyam, pitr devarshi manavaha. Tvaya huta mahabaho sarva eva samagataha pujita dana manabhyam pitr devarshi manavaha.
त्वया हूता महाबाहो सर्व एव समागताः पूजिता दानमानाभ्यां पितृदेवर्षिमानवाः.
त्वया हूता महाबाहो सर्व एव समागताः पूजिता दानमानाभ्यां पितृदेवर्षिमानवाः.
इति श्रीमद्भागवते महापुराणे पारमहंस्यां संहितायां चतुर्थस्कन्धे पृथुविजये 19विंशोऽध्यायः.
इति श्रीमद्भागवते महापुराणे पारमहंस्यां संहितायां चतुर्थस्कन्धे पृथुविजये 19विंशोऽध्यायः.
इति श्रीमद्भागवते महापुराणे पारमहंस्यां संहितायां चतुर्थस्कन्धे ऋतुविजये 19विंशोऽध्यायः.
विंशोऽध्यायः. मैत्रेयो उवाच भगवानपि वैकुण्ठः, साकं मघवता विभुः यज्ञैर्यज्ञपतिस्तुष्टो, यज्ञभुक् तमभाषत. मैत्रेयो उवाच भगवानपि वैकुण्ठः साकं मघवता विभुः यज्ञैर्यज्ञपतिस्तुष्टो, यज्ञभुक् तमभाषत.
भगवानपि वैकुण्ठः साकं मघवता विभुः यज्ञैर्यज्ञपतिस्तुष्टो यज्ञभुक्तमभाषत.
You have that Maitreya Vacha, right?
Oh, Cholaman.
Okay,
Maitreyo Vacha. Sorry.
मैत्रेयोवाच भगवानपि वैकुण्ठः साकं मघवता विभुः यज्ञैर्यज्ञपतिस्तुष्टो यज्ञभुक्तमभाषत.
Shri Bhagavanuvacha Yesha Te Karshida Bhangam, one word. Te Karshida Bhangam, comma. Haya Medha Shatasya Kshama-payata Atmanam, comma, breaking at that. Im Amushya Kshantumarhasi. Shri Bhagavanhuvacha Yeshate Karshida Bhangam Haya Medha Shatasya Kshama-payata Atmanam Amushya Kshantumarhasi.
இதுல அந்த காஷீத்னு இருக்கு, இது இருக்கு.
Karshida Bhangam.
காஷீத பங்கம். ஓகே.
Karshida. Keep going, yeah.
ओके. श्रीभगवानुवाच एष ते काशीदभङ्गं हयमेधशतस्यः क्षमापयत आत्मानम् अमुष्य शन्तुमर्हसि.
श्रीभगवानुवाच एष ते कार्षिदभङ्गं हयमेधशतस्यः क्षमापयत आत्मानम् अमुष्य क्षन्तुमर्हसि.
Sudhiyas sadhavo loke, comma, naradeva narottamaha nabhidruhyanti bhutebhyo, comma, yarhi natma kalevaram. Sudhiyas sadhavo loke naradeva narottamaha nabhidruhyanti bhutebhyo yarhi natma kalevaram.
सुधीयः साधवो लोके नरदेव नरोत्तमाः नाभिद्रुह्यन्ति भूतेभ्यो यर्हिनात्मा कलेवरम्.
सुधियः साधवो लोके नरदेव नरोत्तमाः नाभिद्रुह्यन्ति भूतेभ्यो यर्हिनात्मा कलेवरम्.
Okay, we'll switch here. Meera, you can be a student. Vijaya, I don't know if you're available to be a student or if you're not.
Yeah, I can.
Okay, all right. Purusha yadi muhyanti, comma, twadrisha deva mayaya, shrama eva param jato, comma, dirghaya vriddha sevaya. Purusha yadi muhyanti, twadrisha deva mayaya, shrama eva param jato, dirghaya vriddha sevaya.
पुरुषा यदि मुह्यन्ति त्वादृशा देवमायया श्रम एव परं जातो दीर्घया वृद्धसेवया.
पुरुषा यदि मुह्यन्ति त्वातृषा देवमायया श्रम एव परं जातो दीर्घया वृत्तसेवया.
Atah kayamimam vidwan, breaking at that na in, comma, avidya kama karma bihi arabdha iti naivasmin, comma, pratibuddhonu shajjate, one word. Atah kayamimam vidwan avidya kama karma bihi arabdha iti naivasmin pratibuddhonu shajjate.
अथ कायमिमं विद्वान् अविद्या कामकर्मभिः आरब्ध इति नैवास्मिन् प्रतिबुद्धोऽनुषज्यते.
अधक्कायम् इमं विद्वान् अविद्या कर्मभिः आरब्ध इति नैवास्मिन् प्रतिबुद्धोऽनुषज्यते.
Asamsaktash shariresmin, we have a double na in Sanskrit there, put a in, asmin, comma. Next word starts with a. Amunotpadite grihe, apatye dravine vapi, comma, kah kuryan mamatam bhudah. Asamsaktash shariresmin, amunotpadite grihe, apatye dravine vapi, कः कुर्यान् ममतां बुधः
असंसक्तः शरीरेऽस्मिन् अमुनोत्पादिते गृहे अपत्ये द्रविणे वापि कः कुर्यान् ममतां बुधः
असंसक्तः शरीरेऽस्मिन् अमुनोत्पादिते गृहे अबध्ये द्रविणे वापि कः कुर्यान् ममतां बुधः
एकः शुद्धः स्वयं ज्योतिः put a visarga comma ज्योतिः. Next word on the knee, the ear goes away. निर्गुणोऽसौ गुणाश्रयः सर्वगुणावृतः साक्षी comma निरात्मात्मात्मनः परः. So it's niratma atma atmanah parah. Three different words, but try to say it together as one word. एकः शुद्धः स्वयं ज्योतिः निर्गुणोऽसौ गुणाश्रयः सर्वगुणावृतः साक्षी निरात्मात्मात्मनः परः.
एकः शुद्धः स्वयं ज्योतिः निर्गुणोऽसौ गुणाश्रयः स्वर्गोऽनावृतः साक्षी सर्वगुणावृतः साक्षी निरात्मात्मात्मनः परः
एकः शुद्धः स्वयं ज्योतिः निर्गुणोऽसौ गुणाश्रयः सर्वगुणावृतः साक्षी निरात्मात्मा आत्मनः परः.
That's fine. The atmana, as much as possible, try to say it together. If you're not able to, it's okay to break it. The atmana. It's okay.
Okay.
Ya evam santamatmanam, breaking at that ma, im, comma, atmastam veda purushah, najyate prakriti stopi, comma, tad gunaisa maistitah. Ya evam santamatmanam, atmastham veda purushah, najyate prakriti stopi, tad gunaisa maistitah.
य एवं सन्तमात्मानम् आत्मस्थं वेद पूरुषः नाच्यते प्रकृतिस्थोऽपि तद्गुणैः स मयि स्थितः
य एवं सन्तम् आत्मानम् आत्मस्थं वेद पूरुषः नाच्यते प्रकृतिस्थोऽपि तत्गुणः स मयि स्थितः.
Second line, tad gunaisa maistitah.
तद्गुणैः स मयि स्थितः.
यस् स्वधर्मेण मां नित्यं कॉमा निराशीष श्रद्धयान्वितः भजते शनकैस्तस्य कॉमा मनो राजन् प्रसीदति. यस् स्वधर्मेण मां नित्यं निराशीष श्रद्धयान्वितः भजते शनकैस्तस्य मनो राजन् प्रसीदति.
यस्वधर्मेण मां नित्यं निराशी श्रद्धयान्वितः भजते शनकैस्तस्य मनोराजन् प्रसीदति
यस्वधर्मेण मां नित्यं निराशीश्रद्धयान्वितः भजते शनकैस्तस्य मनोराजन् प्रसीदति.
परित्यक्त gunas samyak. So that ig, if you have it, that becomes ik because you're going to put a comma there. Samyak, comma. Darshano vishadashayah. Shantim me samavasthanam, comma. Brahma kaivalyam ashnute. So just for context, from stanza 2 to stanza 16 is where Narayana is coming and giving knowledge to Prithu. And then later on from stanza 23 is the stuti that Prithu is going to do in return. So that's pretty much this chapter is whatever information Bhagavan is giving, and then Prithu then does the stuti afterwards. Parityakta guna samyak darshano vishadashayah shantim me samavasthanam brahma kaivalyam ashnute.
परित्यक्तगुणः सम्यक् दर्शनो विशदाशयः शान्तिं मे समवस्थानं ब्रह्म कैवल्यमश्नुते
परित्यक्तगुणसम्यक् दर्शनो विशदाशयः शान्तं मे समवस्थानं ब्रह्म कैवल्यम् अश्नुते
Second line, first word, Shantim.
शान्तिम्
Yeah. Udasinam ivadhyaksham, comma, dravya jnana kriyatmanam, Kutastham imamatmanam, just breaking at that me there. Kutastham imamatmanam, comma, yo vedapnoti shobhanam. Udasinamivadhyaksham dravyajnana kriyatmanam kutasthamimamaatmanam yo vedapnoti shobhanam.
उदासीनमिवाध्यक्षं द्रव्यज्ञानक्रियात्मनां कूटस्थम् इममात्मानं यो वेदाप्नोति शोभनम्
उदासीनमिवात्यक्षं द्रव्यज्ञानक्रियात्मनां कूटस्थम् इममात्मानं यो वेदाप्नोति शोभनम्
भिन्नस्य लिंगस्य गुण प्रवाहो, comma, द्रव्य क्रिया कारक चेतनात्मनः दृष्टासु संपत्सु विपत्सु सूरयो, comma, न विक्रियन्ते मयि बद्ध सौहृदाः. भिन्नस्य लिंगस्य गुणप्रवाहो द्रव्यक्रियाकारकचेतनात्मनः दृष्टासु संपत्सु विपत्सु सूरयो न विक्रियन्ते मयि बद्ध सौहृदाः.
भिन्नस्य लिङ्गस्य गुणप्रवाहो द्रव्यक्रियाकारकचेतनात्मनः दृष्टासु संपत्सु विपत्सु सूरयो न विक्रियन्ते मयि बद्धसौहृदाः
भिन्नस्य लिङ्गस्य गुणप्रवाहो द्रव्यक्रियाकारकचेतनात्मनः दृष्टासु संपत्सु विभत्सु सूरयो न विक्रियन्ते महिभक्त सौहृदाः
समस् समानोत्तम मध्यमादमः. Okay, that cannot break it that way. Samanottama madhyamadamah, all of that is one word, comma, sukhe cha dukhe cha jitendriyashayah mayopakliptakila, one word, mayopakliptakila loka samyuto, comma, vidhatsva virakhila loka rakshanam. समसमानोत्तममध्यमाधमः सुखे च दुःखे च जितेन्द्रियाशयः मयोपक्लृप्ताखिल लोकसंयुतो विधत्स्व वीराखिल लोकरक्षणम्.
समसमानोत्तममध्यमाधमः सुखे च दुःखे च जितेन्द्रियाशयः मयोपक्लिप्ताखिललोकसंयुतो विधत्स्ववीराखिललोकरक्षणम्
समसमानोत्तममध्यमाधमः सुखे च दुःखे च जितेन्द्रियाशयः मयोपक्लृत् अखिल लोक संयुतो विदत्स्ववीरा अखिल लोक रक्षणम्.
Second line, first word, myopaklृप्ताखिल.
मयोपक्लृत् अखिल
Yeah, I mean akhila, but it becomes one word, kliptakila.
क्लिप् अखिल
The word, it's two words, klipta akila, but it is written together, so it's klipta akila.
क्लिप्ताखिल. Okay.
That's it. Shreyaf praja palanamev rajnyo, comma, yat samparaye sukrutat shashtamamsham hartanyatha hrita punyaf prajanam, breaking at that ma, comma, arakshita kara harogha matti. श्रेयः प्रजापालनमेव राज्ञो यत्साम्पराये सुकृतात् षष्ठमंशं हर्तान्यथा हृतपुण्यः प्रजानाम् अरक्षिता करहारोघमत्ति.
श्रेयः प्रजापालनमेव राज्ञो यत्साम्पराये सुकृतात् षष्ठमंशं हर्तान् यथा हृतपुण्यः प्रजानाम् अरक्षिताकरहारोघमत्ति
श्रेयः प्रजापालनम् एव राज्ञो यत्साम्पराये सुकृतात् षट्टमंसं हर्तान्यथा पुण्यः प्रजानाम् आरक्षिताकरः आरोगमति
एवं द्विजाग्र्यानुमतानुवृत्त, that's one word and then put a plus. Dvija agriya, so it's two words there but it's combined together. Dvijagryanu-matanu-vritta, put a plus. Dharma pradhanonyatamovitasyaha, even that is together because of the two s coming there, so you cannot break it, so the whole line pretty much is continuous. Hrasvena kalena grihopayatan, comma, drashtasi siddhan anurakta lokah. एवं द्विजाग्र्यानुमतानुवृत्तधर्मप्रधानोऽन्यतमो वितास्याः ह्रस्वेन कालेन गृहोपयातान् द्रष्टासि सिद्धान् अनुरक्तलोकः.
एवं द्विजाग्र्यानुमतानुवृत्तधर्मप्रधानोऽन्यतमो वितास्याः ह्रस्वेन कालेन गृहोपयातान् द्रष्टासि सिद्धान् अनुरक्तलोकः.
एवं द्विजाक्रियानुमधानुवृद्धधर्मप्रधानोऽन्यतमो विधास्याः हरस्वेन कालेन गृहोपयातान् दृष्टासि सिद्धान् अनुरक्तलोकः.
Second line first, after the comma, first line, drashtasi.
द्रष्टासि
Varam chamat kanchana manavendra, comma, वृष्णीष्वतेहं गुणशीलयन्त्रितः नाहं मखैर् वै सुलभस्तपोभिः, विसर्ग comma, next word ir goes away, योगेन वा यत् समचित्तवर्ती.
First line and the sorry, Prinishvava, Vrishneeshvava.
वृणीष्वतेहं.
Okay.
वरं च मत्कञ्चन मानवेन्द्र वृणीष्वतेहं गुणशीलयन्त्रितः नाहं मखैर्वै सुलभस्तपोभिः योगेन वा यत् समचित्तवर्ती.
वरं च मत्कञ्चन मानवेन्द्र प्रणीष्वतेऽहं गुणशीलयन्त्रितः नाहं मखैर्वै सुलभस्तपोभिः योगेन वा यत् समचित्तवर्ती.
वरं च मत्कञ्चन मानवेन्द्र वृणीष्वतेऽहं गुणशीलयन्त्रितः नाहं महैर्वै शुलभस्तपोभिः योगेन वा यत् समसिद्धवर्ती.
मैत्रेय उवाच स इत्थं लोकगुरुना कम विश्वक्सेनेन विश्वजित् अनुशासित आदेशं कम शिरसा जगृहे हरेः. मैत्रेय उवाच स इत्थं लोकगुरुना विश्वक्सेनेन विश्वजित् अनुशासित आदेशं शिरसा जगृहे हरेः.
मैत्रेय उवाच स इत्थं लोकगुरुणा विश्वक्सेनेन विश्वजित् अनुशासित आदेशं शिरसा जगृहे हरेः.
मैत्रेय उवाच स इत्थं लोकगुरुणा विश्वक्सेनेन विश्वजित् अनुशासित आदेशं शिरसा जगृहे हरेः.
पृशन्तं पादयोः प्रेम्णा कम व्रीडितं स्वेन कर्मणा शतक्रतुं परिष्वज्य कम विद्वेषं विससर्जः. स्पृशन्तं पादयोः प्रेम्णा व्रीडितं स्वेन कर्मणा शतक्रतुं परिष्वज्य विद्वेषं विससर्जः.
पृशन्तं पादयोः प्रेम्णा व्रीडितं स्वेन कर्मणा शतक्रतुं परिष्वज्य विद्वेषं विससर्जः
स्पृश स्पृश स्पृशन् स्पृशस्
स्पृशन्तं
स्पृशन्तं स्पृशन्तं पादयोः प्रेम्णा व्रडीतं स्वेन कर्मणा कर्तुं परिष्वज्य विद्वेषं विसर्जः सर्जः
first line just after the comma व्रीडितं
व्रीडितं
भगवानत विश्वात्मा comma पृतुनोपहृतार्हणः one word समुज्जिहानया भक्त्या comma गृहीत चरणाम्बुजः भगवानत विश्वात्मा पृतुनोपहृतार्हणः समुज्जिहानया भक्त्या गृहीत चरणाम्बुजः
भगवानथ विश्वात्मा पृतुनोपहृतार्हनः समुज्जिहानया भक्त्या गृहीतचरणाम्बुजः
भगवानद विश्वात्मा पृदुनोपहृदार्हणः समुज्जिहानया भक्त्या गृहीतचरणाम्बुजः
प्रस्थानाभिमुखोऽप्येनम् again one long word cannot break it up to that ma im comma अनुग्रह विलंबितः पश्यन् पद्म पलाशाक्षो comma न प्रतस्ते सुहृत्सताम् प्रस्थानाभिमुखोऽप्येनम् अनुग्रह विलंबितः पश्यन् पद्म पलाशाक्षो न प्रतस्ते सुहृत्सताम्
प्रस्थानाभिमुखोऽप्येनम् अनुग्रहविलम्बितः पश्यन् पद्मपलाशाक्षो न प्रतस्थे सुहृत्सताम्
प्रस्थानाभिमुखोऽप्येनम् अनुग्रहविलम्बितः पश्यन् पद्मपलासाक्षो न प्रदस्ते सुहृत् सदाम्
स आदिराजो रचिताञ्जलिर्हरिं comma बिलोकितुं नाशकत् अश्रुलोचनः you can break it that da if you want नाशकत् अश्रुलोचनः न किञ्चनोवाच स बाष्प विक्लवो comma हृदोपगुह्यामुम् so that is one word हृदोपगुह्यामुम् अधादवस्थितः if you want to break that स आदिराजो रचिताञ्जलिर्हरिं बिलोकितुं नाशकदश्रुलोचनः न किञ्चनोवाच स बाष्पविक्लवो हृदोपगुह्यामुमधादवस्थितः
स आदिराजो रचिताञ्जलिर्हरिं विलोकितुं नाशकदश्रुलोचनः न किञ्चनोवाच स बाष्पविक्लवो हृदोपगुह्यामुम् अधादवस्थितः
स आदिराजो रचिताञ्जलिर्हरिं विलोकितुं नाशकदश्रुलोचनः न किञ्चनोवाच स बाष्पविक्लवो हृदोपगुह्यामुम् अधादवस्थितः
We'll do one more and stop. अथावमृज्याश्रु कला बिलोकयन् again double na in bilokayan comma next word starts with a अतृप्त दृक् गोचरमाह पूरुषं पदा स्पृशन्तं क्षितिमंस उन्नते comma बिन्यस्त हस्ताग्रम उरंग विद्विषः you want to break it उरंग विद्विषः अथावमृज्याश्रुकलाभिलोकयन् अतृप्तदृग्गोचरमाह पूरुषं पदा स्पृशन्तं क्षितिमंस उन्नते विन्यस्तहस्ताग्रमुरङ्गविद्विषः
अथावमृज्याश्रुकलाविलोकयन् अतृप्तदृग्गोचरमाह पूरुषं पदा स्पृशन्तं क्षितिमंस उन्नते विन्यस्तहस्ताग्रमुरङ्गविद्विषः
अदावमृज्याश्रुकलाविलोकयन् अतृप्तदृक्गोचरमहापुरुषं पदास्पृशन्तं शिधिमं सुन्नते विन्यस्तहस्ताक्रम् उरङ्गविद्विषः.
The first line, the second last word, gocharamah.
First line la
Last, drik gocharamah purusham.
Gochara Purusha.
Purusham. Yeah.
Purusha.
We'll stop there because perfect stop point, because next is the Prutustuti. Okay, so I'll quickly say the meaning. So like, in the I always think, right, like we said when we did the third canto beginning, when Bhagavan did the Chatushloki Bhagavad thing to Brahma, right? We said essentially there are only 4 things to know, right? And the 4 things, same message keeps getting repeated every point, because that's when it gets ingrained in our minds. Otherwise, we just hear those 4 statements. That's all there is there in Bhagavatam at the end of the day, right? So here, because Prithu, he listened to Brahma and then he did the right thing. So Bhagavan says, okay, now it's time for me to come to Prithu and then teach him some things, right? So at various points, like in Kapilopakyanam, the incarnation as Kapila came and gave it. Here, Bhagavan is going to give the same subtle information to Prithu. Later on, Rishabha Yogeshwara is also going to get. So here he starts off by saying, first of all, Indra, he also brings in Indra, because Indra has been hiding, because he's been afraid, right, to come in front of Prithu at this point. So Vishnu also brings in Indra also to the same point, and then he gives a message to everybody, to Prithu and to Indra, now saying that, first of all, he says you should, this is gentle message, right? Anytime Bhagavan is giving, he always gives a subtle message to everybody, saying you should never have ill feeling towards anybody, right? The intelligent person is the one who does not act to others with an ill feeling, because that means they're still under the belief that I am this body. Because then you feel ill feel towards somebody else, right? When you are upset at somebody else, you're angry at somebody else, you get ego because of that, because you are thinking you are separate. He says, Prithu, you already know you are not the body. You already know you are the soul, which is always permanent. How can you have bad feelings towards Indra, even though he commits a sin? You cannot have that bad feeling, right? So because you are now getting affected by all these material emotions, which is only there for people who are not intelligent. And what happens is, it says it reduces your spirituality, it reduces the progression of spirituality, because now you're getting distracted with getting upset at people, getting angry at people, and all of that stuff. So it stops your spiritual progress. So it says that, Prithu, you are intelligent enough to understand that you should not do any of that stuff, right? And then he again talks about the soul, again very similar to what Kapila said. He's saying that the soul is pure, it is effulgent, right? Like for example, like Earth only gets light because the sun light is falling on Earth. He says we are alive only because the soul is inside our body. The soul leaves the body, we are dead, right? That's a definition pretty much. But the soul doesn't need anything else to survive. The soul is just surviving on its own, because the soul and the Paramatma are always there. It is just separated out from the Paramatma, but it can stay on its own. So always realize that no matter what somebody curses you or anything, the soul doesn't change at all. It always remains the same. It is just your mental, all the material, the body that is there, that is actually getting affected with all of these things. He says, do not get indulged in all of that stuff. And then he tells Prithu again the same karma yoga, saying that continue to do your duty. Your duty is you're performing Ashwamedha Yajna, right? So you just perform the Ashwamedha Yajna. Don't expect anything in return. And if anything gets disturbed by that, don't worry about it, right? That is what is destined to happen. So again, he's repeating the same thing, saying, don't worry, you cannot influence the outcome of everything. And then he says, with this, when you don't expect the outcome, your mind is clear. And when your mind is clear, then you're always at peace, which is what the most important thing is. Otherwise, you're getting distracted with all the senses and the minds and everything. So with that, he just gives just a description of this to Prithu, right? And I'll summarize it tomorrow next class. So at the end, he says is, just your duty is that of a king. So just do what a king is supposed to do. And it applies to everybody. He says, anytime you are some other people are dependent on you, then he says, whatever you do, and they then do good in return, you also get some benefit out of it. But if you are doing something bad and people under you do bad because of you doing bad, then you also have a share of that bad thing, because you're influenced by you, right? So that applies to everybody, right? So I think that's what he's saying. You are a king. which means you do all the good things, people do all the good things, you get credit for it. If you do bad things and people end up doing bad things, you are also going to get the blame for it, or you're going to get this sin against it, right? So he says, continue doing this, and that's why he wraps it up, and then Prithu does the stuti in the next. So we'll cover that in the next class. I'll wrap a little bit more of it in the next class. Shri Hare Namaha, Shri Hare Namaha, Shri Hare Namaha. Gopika Jeevana Smaranam Govinda Govinda. Sadgurunath Maharaj Ki Jai. Kahena vacha manasendriyerva buddhyatmana va prakrite swabhavat karomi yatyat sakalam parasmai narayanaayeti samarpayami. Thank you, everyone. See you on Sunday.
Thanks, Rajesh.
Thank you,
Rajesh.
Rajesh.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Bye,
you,
everyone.
Rajeshri.
Bye.
Thank you.